Hello, this is Aoife Dean. This is the Happy Weight podcast. Thank you so much for clicking play to this. Today's noises in the background are sponsored by two kittens. I got two kittens around a week and a half ago. And you know the way you're meant to keep them inside when they're new so that they know that this is home. And then after 2 weeks, you can let them wander around the garden and stuff. And I'm like counting down the days. Oh, it's actually only one day. Tomorrow now it'll be 2 weeks and I can let them roam around because they've really outgrown the place. They're, pulling at everything and climbing on everything. So depending on what Jack can do with the editing, there might be some kitten noises in the background. So yeah, thanks so much for joining me. I chatted a lot about the Mediterranean diet, kind of, I suppose, the attitude and the behavior and the way they go about food in the last episode. But I suppose I didn't really chat about the foods they actually celebrate. And I suppose that's like a lot of my episodes. I kind of go down the road of the emotion and the behavior and everything because that's the thing people most struggle with, I believe. So let's also chat though about the foods to celebrate because the thing is that there's been a massive, discrepancy in kind of what's really shoved in our face every day, promotion wise and our whole life, and, I'm not saying there's any other way of doing this. I certainly don't know what my nieces and nephews, but I suppose growing up, if you did something good, you got a treat, the treat was chocolate or sweets or whatever. So, that all helps with the psychology that it's a reward. It's such a reward. And then all the advertising, I think if an alien came from outer space and watched the telly for a night, they'd be like, oh, right, okay, so their diet is just junk food because you don't really see anything else on telly. You really see very little evidence of normal healthy eating. It's, the stuff that's advertised as the big processed food companies and drinks, and delivery companies and stuff like that. So who's promoting the fruit and veg? And then it's like the people who can be promoting fruit and veg are a bit boring or goody two shoes, or it's the government, or it's, you should do it. And it's really, it all can be a bit boring, and especially depending on our personality. I've worked with a lot of people as well who are a bit like myself, who are a bit of a rebel without a cause. So if we know we should be doing something, we definitely won't be. And we'll get an extra thrill from being a bit bold. So now when we're changing our diet, right, it's in our best interest to big up the stuff that's absolutely going to change our lives, the stuff that's going to make our skin amazing, our hair amazing, the stuff that's going to prevent illness, disease, slow down aging, make us energetic, make us happy. It's in our best interest to really big up and rebrand those things. We don't deserve to miss out. And I remember one stage of the game for myself changing. I was like, wait a second here. I have been a little slave to the diet industry. And where has it got me? It's got me finishing share bags, thinking I'm having the crack. It's got me waking up with a bloated, disgusting food hangover, feeling horrible on a Saturday when I should be off work enjoying myself, but I just feel gross from how much I ate last night. The diet industry in a roundabout way made me feel like it was such a treat and, so amazing to be eating crap basically. And then I was punishing myself by eating fruit and veg, punishing myself. I was being really punitive and controlled and not kind. And the reality is it's the other way around. If we're starving our body from nutrients, if all we're eating is stuff from packets or boxes or fried stuff, we're starving. Modern malnutrition can be obesity, hair loss, psoriasis, bad skin, whatever it might be. There's all these little things that, malnutrition and not getting enough of the right nutrients, tons of calories, tons of fat, tons of sugar, but not any of the phytonutrients, fiber, vitamins, minerals, omegas, we're starving ourselves from maybe those foods. So I think we want to promote big time fruit and veg in whatever way we can. So I think if you're interested enough, it's good to become a tomato connoisseur, become a a carrot connoisseur, like who sells the best tomatoes? The ones at the Saturday markets, the ones in Dunn's, the ones in Lidl, the ones in Aldi, the ones in your, I don't know, the shop locally. Like for each individual fruit and veg, find your favourite, do you know? And also sometimes I kind of think when we're starting on this too, if at all possible, throw money at the situation. Like, you know, get the mango in Marks and Spencer's that you wouldn't usually, or make things really easy for yourself and buy big veggie soups or big bean chili thingies that someone else has cooked. Like, lean on the convenience of fruit and veg. Like, I think that's really important, because with the extremist attitude that we can get from dieting, it can be kind of like, when I'm being good, I'm being so good, I'm being so clean. Like, I remember, and then, sorry, the other side of the coin, I suppose, is binging, overeating. And I remember I had a client a few years ago, and you know, she was morbidly obese. She had real issues with binging, dieting. So, you know, it was always starting a diet. Always, always, always. Pretty much every day was starting a diet, breaking a diet, starting a diet, breaking a diet. And I remember in week 1 when, you know, we had our second call or whatever, and I was looking over her food diary and she's like, this is so embarrassing, like so embarrassing. Like, that hummus is actually shop bought. And I was like, what do you, yeah, so? And she's like, I didn't make it myself. Like, it's from the supermarket. There could be anything in it. And I'm like, that's an awful way to live, that everything in the supermarket you can't trust. Like, everything is out to kill you. There's a load of horrible ingredients in stuff. And it's like, that's really not always the case. Especially stuff with hummus and things like that. Like, you can read the ingredients in the back. There's nothing weird or wonderful in it. So I think lean on the convenience of, like, we have to do what we got to do to make fruit and veg way sexier than processed foods. And to be honest, it is. Like, I was just thinking about this earlier. Like, I think you get very sick of takeaways if you've been a binge eater. Like, I was a binge eater, so I was always like, screw it, I'll get a takeaway. Screw it, I'll get a takeaway. So I was getting, you know, a lot of takeaways, or I was eating a lot of chocolate and stuff, because it was always like, screw the diet, I'm breaking it, or I have a right, I'm emotional, or whatever. I was always pressing the screw it up button. But I think sometimes the reality is that, like, if you made a gorgeous feast, or if you were kind of really thinking what would make my stomach happy, I just don't think even if you do get a takeaway, it would be the same choices. So yeah, I suppose it goes back to the treat, the prize is us feeling well. Like, life is short. How you live your day is how you live your life. The standards at which you think you deserve to feel, you know, like, I think that's a basic one, that we realize that if we are getting a takeaway, if we are making a meal, if we are going out to a restaurant, the whole point is you feel well after it. And sometimes we have to remind ourselves of that a million times, because, you know, if we're in the disordered eating cycle, we can just be kind of like, no, this is my prize. This is my exception. This is the exception to the rule now. I get to eat all of this because next week will be different. You know, this marks the end of my bad phase, and then I'll be starting my good phase. So, you know, this is a bit different, and we can be just eating in a chaotic, all or nothing way. And then when we really check in and we ask ourselves, like, but am I enjoying this? Like, am I enjoying how I'm eating? Am I enjoying how I'm feeling before I eat, during eating, after eating? Because, like I said, how we live our day is how we live our life. And when is go time? You know, when do we get to start living or being who we want to be in life? You know, now's as good a time as any. So the joy is in the journey. And with disordered eating, we've more of an end justifies means. So it's like, on a cheat day, eat absolutely everything you can because you're on a cheat day, you know, before you start the good phase so you can lose weight. Or I'm on a really, really clean day, so I have to be super, super clean and low calorie. And then there's just no enjoyment in how we eat. And we can't get around that one. We can't get around that one if we're not enjoying or how we're eating. If we don't have a good relationship with food, it's really unlikely we're moving towards a healthy weight long term. Really, really unlikely. So that is always the basic is to check in the moment, how you're feeling and how whatever you're eating is going to make you feel in 20 minutes time. So in the Mediterranean diet, I suppose they're amazing at celebrating fruit and vegetables, like amazing. And you know, in their defense, like, or what makes it easier for them is their fruit and veg is way nicer, I find. And that's why we have to be a connoisseur around our own supermarkets, and find the versions of things that we like, you know, because they do all taste different in different supermarkets. And, you know, they're also really not afraid to pimp up a vegetable, you know, like they'll roast it or they'll add lovely olive oil or they'll put it in a salad with some really yummy fats or, you know, like they'll just fully use it to its optimum. And if we're in the disordered eating that, you know, veg is what you eat when you're trying to be good. So let's have it as low cal as possible. Let's use some crappy 0 cal vinaigrette or 0 cal spray or some crap like that. It's like you are giving vegetables a bad name. Like making them crap is not a help to anyone. Like we need to be kind of eating our vegetables in such a way that we're lucky to be eating them, that they're genuinely gorgeous. So like if that means having, you know, cheese on your cauliflower or roasting your veggies or whatever, do what you got to do, or adding cream to your soup but like fruit and vegetables need to be the basis of our diet eventually. So Rome wasn't built in a day. Yeah, I forgot the last podcast was about Rome. But Rome wasn't built in a day, and neither is, like, if we were disordered eaters and now we're moving, we want to grow into a really cool relationship with food and a really great diet. That's not going to happen overnight. It's going to happen by little encouragement, feeling better and better, things being nicer and nicer, and ultimately the way we're going starting to feel better than where we used to be. And one of the main ways that where we're going starts feeling better than where we used to be is because I've never worked with anyone who didn't feel better after eating plenty of fruit and veg. And that's why I don't focus on nutrition a lot of the time, because if you get someone in a good headspace, if you get someone to let go of the shame that they have around their weight, if you get someone into a headspace where they respect themselves and they want the best for themselves, they are not going to be eating tubs of Pringles. They are not going to be going to bed feeling sick. They're not going to be waking up feeling mank, because ultimately they don't deserve it. They realize, I don't deserve this. This isn't about weight. This is about today. And today I don't deserve to feel mank. And today I don't deserve to go through my day without vitamins and minerals, without helping my brain and my gut and my body and my bones and my muscles. Like if I've a full on day or a full on week, and especially if you're stressed or you've kids or you've a busy job or you've people depending on you or whatever, you don't deserve to do that undernourished. Like that's just not fair on you at all. So, like I think self-love and nutrition are basically hand in hand, because I suppose the opposite of self-love is when we're always giving out to ourselves. And I think basically if you're willing to talk shit about yourself, you're willing to eat shit, basically. Sorry for my French, but that's the reality. Like, and I see it with clients. If clients are willing to really body shame themselves and really give out to themselves about what they ate yesterday, they're also probably going to have a day that week where they eat absolute crap. Do you know what I mean? And I use the word crap loosely because, of course, we need like processed food somewhere in the diet for our emotional, mental and social health and stuff like that. And some days we need it more than others. But I suppose it always comes back to your intention of eating it. Are you eating it in a place of like love and celebration and being normal and eating with others and being kind to yourself and having a bit of chocolate because you'll feel a bit better? Or are you coming from a place of hate? Is it from a place of like, I hate my body, it's not changing anyway, I don't think it will ever change, I might as well eat crap? Like, that's kind of more the abuse side of things, you know? So, so fruit and veg, celebrate them in whatever way, buy them in whatever way, add whatever oil or cream or cheese or salt or yumminess you need so you can really sell yourself on how amazing they are, you know? Because I think another real cheat, and I say it a lot probably on this podcast, but like a bit of a half and half, like you have the pizza from the takeaway, but you also have a giant salad with it. And then it's like inevitably then you're going to feel less mank afterwards. Like, you know, that's a lot easier ride for your stomach, because your stomach doesn't just get a load of high fat, high salt, low fiber, low water foods. It gets a mix of all their super nourishing foods as well. So that's kind of cool. Another change with the Mediterranean diet versus the Western diet is they celebrate grains. So their rice, their pasta, their breads, their whole grain breads, all of those things. And I was kind of surprised when I saw this myself, actually. But I saw this thing where, you know, I think there was some study on basically the shopping list and the shopping spend per week for people, you know, doing the Mediterranean diet basically, and the average Western diet person. And they might spend, say, $43. Well, it's obviously in dollars. Yeah, dollars. For that's probably where the study was done, was America. Sorry, that's why it was dollars. So in the Mediterranean diet, $43 a week on grains, I think it is. I think it's a week. And then in the Western diet, $15 on grains. And I think that's interesting because most of the people I work with have been, you know, have disordered eating. You can't really get disordered eating without doing loads of diets. And a lot of the diets that are popular in the last decade or so have been low carb diets. So, you know, it's always interesting to me now, because I suppose I am in a good place with food, what people will come on the phone to me and be like, oh my God, I can't believe I ate that. Because it will be like bread. It'll be something like the most basic thing. And sometimes a good kind of test of, are you being crazy, is if you said that to your grandparents, would it make sense? You know, because if you said to your grandparents, oh, I had a really bad day of eating today because I ate bread, I think like our grandparents would be like, what are you talking about? So the healthiest diets in the world are based on carbohydrates. And I remember back in the day, before I was more educated, I used to be a bit of a conspiracy theorist, and I'd be like, they're only putting carbs at the bottom of the pyramid for whatever reason, but actually it should be protein down there. You know, we can really get indoctrinated into the whole protein diet stuff. It's scary, actually. But that's just not the truth, you know. So really a healthy diet is based on 60 to 70% carbohydrates. And if you're having lovely brown rice and bread rolls and different forms of carbohydrates, potatoes, of course, or whatever your local carbohydrate is, you know, it helps us feel satisfied from a meal. And basically in the Western diet, it's like this money spent on grain is swapped for sweets, crisps, etc. So, you know, sometimes I think that can really happen, people. I've seen it with people's diets, you know, them telling me about before they worked with me and stuff like that. And it's definitely my own story as well, that like, oh, geez, I couldn't have bread, not a hope. And God, you know, I can really do without pasta and I don't need the rice and whatever. But then if you look at your average consumption of crisps over a month, or your average consumption of chocolate, so it's like, you're getting the carbs. Like, you're getting the carbs either way. But in the Mediterranean diet, it's probably a smarter, healthier way to go about it, to get their carbs from grains and stuff that contains loads of fiber and other vitamins and minerals, and is, you know, released slowly in the body, keeps us fuller longer, helps our gut microbes, helps our energy levels, helps our iron levels, like helps our calcium levels. The list just goes on and on and on. Whereas, yeah, if we avoid that stuff in our diet, we're going to have to catch up on that. Even the satisfaction from carbs, like you can't replace carbs, you know. like I often talk to clients about it that like, we would have done diets where it's like, you're definitely not allowed to have bread for breakfast, and you might be having 2 eggs or something. And there's just a wildly different feeling having just 2 eggs on their own, or 2 eggs and a piece of toast is just one piece of toast, but a low carb diet will be like, you cannot have that piece of toast. And then we'll eat a share bag tomorrow instead, So really making sure that we are having grains in our diet. Next one is they do have dairy, they have cheeses. And so I suppose there's always a theme there, right? Whether it's cheese or whether it's nuts or whether it's avocado or whether it's coconut. As dieters, we can be scared of anything with fats, anything with calories. But your body relies on fat, like it's the first nutrient we die without is fat. The dry weight of your brain, a fifth of that is omega-3 by itself. And I forget how much of your brain is actual fat. Like all the important stuff in our body is fat. Your spine, your ovaries, everything to do with reproductive stuff is fat. Like fat is the seed of life. Like seeds are high in fat because fat and life are hand in hand. You can't have fat without life. You can't have, vice versa. Sorry. It's early in the morning, by the way, when I'm recording this. So I'm sorry if my head's a little fuzzy. But we really, really do need fats in our diet. And I had an anorexic client the other day, and I love dispelling myths because like when we've disordered eating, we all have the same bully in our brain saying, you can't do that because of this, And her bully was saying the typical one, like, you can't have nuts. Nuts are high in fat. You've already had nuts today or whatever. And I was like, oh, love it. Love it, love it, love it. Because the highest nut eaters are slim people. So when we get the gorgeous fats from our diet, we need less trans fats, hydrogenated fats, processed fats, because we're having a robust, fulfilling diet. Like if our dinners have fats or oils or a bit of cream or a bit of butter or whatever, and it's a really good soup because of that. Like the soup was not just this watery veg kind of thing. It was a robust 360 meal that we had with bread or brown bread or a sandwich. And we are donezo after it. Like we are happy. It almost feels like internally, you got enough nutrients, it like that really lovely feeling of satisfied and done. And if we're cutting fats out of our diet, something's just not going to be right. Like it's not right. Like how I see it, like is, and some of this is of course my imagination, but like, if fat is so vital to so many processes in our body and is like the founding father of so many organs and everything, like, if the day is going on and on and on, or 2 days is going on and on and on, and we're on this extremely low fat diet or something, like, of course there's alarm bells going off in our body. Of course it's like, what the hell is happening? And then, whenever we catch up and we binge or we overeat, like whenever we catch up and we binge or we overeat, like that's, I always think that's a part behavioral and a part biological. Like I said, our body is like, whoa, enough is enough. What is going on here? How come there hasn't been enough fats? And then like forces us to catch up, kind of survival instincts kick in. So you just don't see that in the Mediterranean diet. Like they've fats in every meal. They're not afraid to have fats. And the French diet, my God, like, do you know, like the oily French onion soups or the dippy cheese or anything like that, they're not afraid of fats. But then because they're not afraid of fats, and they have it in such a celebratory way with loads of veg and everything. So like it feels gorgeous when they're eating it. Like, eating fats in that way is very different than the feeling you get after eating a share bag by yourself or a huge bar of chocolate by yourself. Like ingesting all the fats in one go, like on your own, out of a packet with no other nutrients or fiber. And it's not even a meal. Like it's not even a meal. Like that's the weird thing with processed foods. It's like you could eat them. You could eat a hell of a lot of calories, but then you're back looking in the cupboards or needing a sandwich in an hour or two, even if it was like 1,000 calories. Whereas that would never happen in the Mediterranean diet, like how they're eating the fatty yumminess in their meals. They're having the fruit, the veg, they're having the protein, they're having water, they're having whole grains, they're having this 360 meal that covers all bases. So then when they're done, they're done. Like they're done on a taste level. It was crazy, ridiculously amazing. And they're done on a belly level. Their belly is officially full. Whereas we don't get that with processed foods. Like, say, if we're finishing a share bag, it's just one taste over and over and over again. It's not really a 360 taste experience. And then also how our belly feels at the end of it. You know, I think kind of with any processed foods, it's like you feel like you've had a load in one way, but in another way you feel kind of empty. You know, and you are like any processed food, it's going to be crazy high in sugar or crazy high in fat, but then empty from another side of things. So I suppose they don't have to experience that. And like the processed foods just wouldn't seem as appealing maybe if you've had this ridiculously gorgeous lunch or you're facing into a ridiculously gorgeous dinner. And that's what we need to build by ourselves now. And this is why comparison does not work in this department, because you need to eat whatever the hell you need to eat for lunch or dinner that you could get excited about. And it does not matter if what that entails doesn't meet the standards of a diet. In fact, that's probably an amazing sign. Like I'm always saying, it's like sometimes if we're getting out of eating and weight issues, you ask yourself, what would I have done as a dieter? And then do the opposite, you know, because as a dieter, we might have this puny little measly teaspoon of sugar and then, or a teaspoon of oil, and then maybe as someone celebrating food, we know that our salad needs more than a teaspoon of olive oil, you know. So the next thing they do is they have a lot of fish. They have a lot of fish and shellfish and all of that stuff. And I'd say because of Ireland's history, you know, like when we were taken over and stuff, you couldn't fish. We weren't allowed fish and stuff like that. So I'd say, unfortunately, we got out of the habit of it in our diet if we weren't allowed fish. So, you know, but it's such a crazy important part of health and our brain and all the rest of it. So that's another thing that like we get to celebrate. Like if you like Union Hall mackerel or salmon pate, class. If you like salmon cutlets, if you like roasted fish, if you like, you know, making fish in those little tinfoil packets and then adding whatever yumminess you need to, or if you want to make fish and then make like a ridiculously gorgeous white sauce or something, like do not be afraid. Like that's the whole thing with healthy food. It needs the help. Like it needs something to sometimes enhance the flavor. And I love those little facts about things like, you know, if you add fats to tomato, it helps the absorption of lycopene, which is an anti-cancer phytonutrient. So fat can really be a carrier, not just at increasing the likelihood that veg will go into our body or fish will go into our body if we make it nicer, but also when it's inside of there, eating it with fat can help the absorption of also the fat-soluble vitamins. So what's really cool about fish is it's really high in polyunsaturated fats. So, you know, in our dairy and in our red meats and stuff like that, they're high in saturated fats. And our body just genuinely needs a break from them sometimes. And the Western diet has gone very saturated fat, like, you know, it's gone very burgers, you know, non-stop cheese. And then, like I say, those foods are grand in the Mediterranean diet because they're being mixed, they're being diluted with loads of grains and fruit and veg and stuff like that. But if it's just kind of like the same thing over and over again, red meat, low veg, that's a different experience for our body then, you know. So polyunsaturated fats and monounsaturated fats, they're the things that come from like our fish or nuts or seeds. And monounsaturated fats, especially the stuff that's in olive oil, that can help actually bring down cholesterol. So I think that's really quite cool. The next one as well is beans and legumes. And sometimes the best way to know a country's diet is a wander around the supermarket. And I know I'm not the only person that does that. Like, that's like a thing, isn't it? Like, I love wandering around foreign supermarkets. They're so interesting. And like, when I lived in Barcelona for a month last year, like, even the most kind of inner city Lidl or whatever would have a huge dedication of space to shellfish and fish, and an aisle of, like, say, chickpeas in jars or beans or peas or different types of beans and lentils. And they really know how to make lentils and beans and peas and all of that stuff really nice and really incorporated into their diet. And that's something that's kind of been lost with our diet as well, I kind of think. I don't know, did the Irish diet ever really get into that neck of the woods? And then dieting seemed to ruin things like baked beans, because baked beans are great, and baked beans on toast is like, it's kind of a complete amino meal. It's like got the total complement of aminos to create a full protein, even though it's vegetarian. And it's also high fiber and all of this. And then, the rumor went out that, oh, there's a bit of sugar in it or whatever. And it's like, there is no categorically bad or good food. And like, when we're in a bad headspace and dieting has done that to us, we're mad to categorize a food as good or bad. And it's like, you just can't do that, because it's kind of like, cheese and dairy and stuff can be, I know not everyone wants to eat it for a variety of different reasons, but it can be super important for our bones and our health and our vitamin D and our calcium and stuff like that. But cheese is high in fat. But yeah, some of the best diets of the world, including the Mediterranean diet, has cheese in it. So if we're going to always find one nutrient that makes food wrong, that's kind of not going to help us have this, rounded, holistic 360 diet of everything we actually need. So things have to be high fat and low in this and high in that. And that's why we need a balanced diet. We need the mix of everything that's high and low and stuff. So just like fruit and veg, I think beans, legumes, whatever, do whatever you need to do with them. Make whatever hummus, buy whatever hummus, have whatever beans, look up whatever Nigella Lawson or Jamie Oliver or Donald Skeeton or whoever, like, look up meals and things that like really celebrate them. And whatever you do, as always, avoid a kind of low fat, boring version of them, because we need to do the hard sell on ourselves now. We need to kind of be making meals and stuff that it's not that we have to eat this food. It's that we genuinely love it. And what a cool compliment that on top of loving it, on top of it feeling really nice in our belly, it's actually, slowing down aging or preventing quick aging, and it's keeping us healthier. It's helping our immune system. Like, what an added bonus to a really gorgeous meal. So our job is to just get going on the gorgeousness, to find recipes with beans or lentils, and to find recipes, side dishes with veg and stuff like that, and pimp them up big time. So have I gone around the circle there? I've done fruit and veg, I've done grain, I've done dairy, I've done meat and protein, how they have, definitely more fish and seafood. And then they have some meats and they have some red meats, of course, and they have some sweets. And I suppose that's another thing that they do it a bit like our grandparents would have done it, where they do little and often. So like, they always have a dessert. So say maybe in the 60s or grandparents' time or whenever, they'd always have a little dessert, but it would be little, like say a scoop of ice cream and a scoop of jelly. Like, it's very low calories, or a little bit of custard and apple, or, a little bit of some semolina or something like that. Like, they always ended on a sweet note, but it was never ridiculous. And then I think in the modern world, we've kind of almost gone out of the habit of thinking dessert is normal maybe, but then it is normal to maybe have a cup of tea and a chocolate bar or something, or when we're out, have, a chocolate fudge cake the size of our head or something. So it'd be cool as well if like we just had the icing on the cake after every meal, that we had something yummy and sweet or whatever, but we didn't depend on it. like that the dessert or the sweet part of the meal, it was the icing on the cake. It was the part that left a sweet taste in our mouth that got us to like feel final and done with the meal. But it wasn't what our belly depended on for satisfaction. We weren't expecting our brain to get satisfied on a processed food or a sweet food alone, because that's a big ask. Like, our body has a right to ask for nutrients. So therefore, it's got a right to say, I'm not satisfied and done. If you eat 1,000 calories of something that's just sugar or fat or something, our body has a right to look for the fiber and the vitamins and the minerals and the water and the foods that it needs. And oftentimes that's why we're overeating, because our body is asking for X and we keep giving it Y. So, I think we have to try out foods that fill us up and make us feel satisfied. Another part of the Mediterranean diet is being physically active, enjoying meals with others. And, the Mediterranean diet is this big celebrated, studied thing. Like, I don't even know what this means, to be honest, but it's been termed the intangible cultural heritage of humanity by UNESCO in 2013, because what it means is that the way that they eat brings all age groups together. It celebrates times of the year, seasons, a way of life, cultural things. It's much, much more than just food. It's everything around it. And I think that's another thing we need to think about when we're binging in the car outside Tesco or something. It's like, thinking about food as part of something bigger, part of like how we relate to our friends and our family. Because even when we start thinking like that, like I used to always be doing stuff like that. I'd always be like binging in a car park somewhere, or, having the cupboard and the fridge door open on my own in the house, mindlessly eating everything like I was under a spell or something. It was crazy. But then I'd meet my friend for coffee and there's no way I could eat cake with her. Do you know what I mean? Or my friends would be out, they'd all be ordering chips and there's not a hope I could order chips. And, I think it's a little tactic in itself to be like, do you know what? Rather than having this now, because I am kind of full, I'm going to get on to Grania and I'm going to see is she free tomorrow, and let's go to that lovely place in Ballincollig or whatever. And I'm going to reward myself with a lovely carrot cake or something. So you're like always incorporating the celebration and the joy of food with meeting others. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and I'll catch you again. By the way, I'm on Instagram, at happyweightaoife. I'm on TikTok sometimes also at happyweightaoife. I've courses online. I've my one-to-one programs. And I'm on YouTube every so often as well. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll speak to you on the next episode.